Okay, so as we already talked about, so we have the goods market, and in the goods market, what we need for the equilibrium condition to hold is for our output to equal Z. Z is the demand for goods, and that is given by C, Y minus T, plus I, plus G. So effectively, the equilibrium condition requires that we have Y, which is output, equals to demand, which is basically C, Y minus T, I plus G. And when we looked at this, this condition in chapter 3, we had assumed that investment and government expenditure are exogenous. We took them as fixed values that were not determined from within our model. And tax was also fixed. Effectively, everything about the government was fixed. So we are going to relax this assumption. And by relaxing, what we mean is, let me just write this down. Interest rate affects the level of investment in the economy, and what we know is that investment affects demand. Okay. So what will that do? Let's take a look at that. So investment depends on two things. So think about it. Well, actually, first, let's talk about what we mean by investment. In economics, at least in this introductory and intermediate macroeconomics courses, when we talk about investment, we primarily talk about purchase of, let's say, of fixed assets, so buying of machineries by firms, let's say. When we talk about, when we talk in our everyday life, we mean investment to be a lot of different things. For example, if I buy stocks in a market, we may call that as financial investment. But in economics, that's not the case. When I'm talking about investment, I'm specifically meaning firms buying machineries. So what will that depend on? A firm's decision to invest in buying new, more machineries. What will that decision depend on? Number one is obviously sales or output. So if the demand for your goods is going up, you have to produce more to sell more. You will want to invest more. You will want to buy more machineries. On the flip side, if demand of your goods is not increasing, then you really have no motivation to invest behind more machinery. So the first thing that affects investment is sales or output. And this is a positive relationship. The next thing that affects our investment decision is the interest rate. So let's go back to the same example. A firm, suppose your sales is going up, and so you want to buy more machinery to increase your production, but it will be very rare that a firm just has money, a lot of money lying around, which it can use to buy machinery. Usually you have to take out a loan from a bank and use that loan to buy new machineries. And this increase in production means that over time, as your profits increase, you pay back your loan to the bank. But if you're taking a loan to buy this machinery, what you're going to be very concerned with is the interest rate in the economy. And if the interest rate is very high, you are going to be less willing to take the loan and in turn buy the machinery. If the opposite is true, and if the interest rate is very low, you're more willing to take the loan. So this here is a negative relationship. So effectively, what we see is that investment, which we denote with I, is a function of output and interest. Or the way this is written in the book is that investment is a function of Y and I. And they're the same thing, just different notations. And this is positive. If you want to produce more, you're going to want to invest more, and vice versa. And this here is a negative relationship. If interest rates are very high, you are less willing to invest. And if interest rates are very low, you're more willing to invest. So we have now established this relationship, is that investment is no longer exogenous, but rather endogenous. And the level of investment is now determined by the income level or the sales level and the interest rate. As a result, this is what happens to our equilibrium condition. We have Y equals to C, Y minus T, no changes there, plus I, but I is now a function of Y and small I, which is interest, plus G. So this is the new equilibrium condition for us. So of course, if we break this down, let's see what we get. We get CY minus CT plus IYI plus G. Actually, we don't really need this at this stage. Let's just get rid of this. And let me just ask you guys this question. What happens to the equilibrium when I changes? And remember, we have not covered this in chapter 3 because in chapter 3 there was no interest rate. Investment was fixed. But now we have introduced a new variable in our model that is I right here. And as a result, we want to figure out what effect this will have on the equilibrium.